Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to Errata and FAQ. I'm the NPC, and lately I've been on a bit of a nostalgia binge, but not in the way you typically expect. I mean, sure, I like my old animation and old movies and so forth, but no. I've been thinking back to past games that I've been in, stories and adventures, and the ones that are standing out to me right now are those personal stories. Like, everyone could understand the D&D adventure of grand heroics, but the crossovers where things you didn't expect to be in your D&D game popped up, and they're more personal and special, and they're kind of an in-joke, but not really. But it's still something you kind of, it's still something distinctly yours, even when you share it. And, although sharing it, it allows you to spread the joy with others, because, who doesn't love spreading joy? Unless you're the Grinch. But we're not the time of year, unless you're watching this at the right time of year, in which case it's topical. Anyway, so past a little bit now, I've been reminiscing about my favorite crossovers in D&D games, D&D/Pathfinder games that have occurred to me, or I've had occurred to others. Wink, wink. So today we're going to be talking about the top 5 of those. This isn't like a normal formal list, but keep it to 5. Number 5, Sherlock Holmes. Yes, Sherlock Holmes fell through a dimensional whatnot at one point and wound up in a D&D game. This is all fun, of course, but what was really amusing was that it wasn't fun for the character that opted to bodyguard for him, you see. Sherlock Holmes had such a firm belief in logic and the dispelling of the supernatural and the whole, removing the improbable and leaving however absurd is the truth thing going on, that he actually created an magic dead zone around him. And of course, the one who decided to guard him was the mage. So the mage was just like, I shall show you this great magical power and you shall believe. Ha-da-da, magic missile and nothing. And Sherlock Holmes is just over there going, yes, quite impressive. Anyway, classic literature meets D&D. Always fun, right? Number 4 is Star Wars. And not Star Wars as a whole, but a very specific instance of Star Wars. Basically, the group was, traveling around, and we got hooked into this quest. We needed to find this strange person. It was a side quest, who might be able to help with the affliction that somebody was currently undergoing. I think my character was turned into a pseudo-dragon at the time. That was rather frustrating. As a character, it was rather frustrating. Anyway, so we get this strange magical signal, and we basically look for it, because we're told that whatever there should be able to help us. And we go north of the continent onto another island, and then there's this swamp. And I think you guys know where this is going. On this swamp, we meet this strange little green goblin man that has very strange syntax. Yes, we end up meeting Yoda. So, our characters being our characters, we converse in character with Yoda, which was fun. And eventually, a ship comes down and stormtroopers pop out. There's firing, we kill the stormtroopers, and we all have a great old time. And, eventually, Yoda manages to do something and turns, my character back into a person, I think. Or was it another character that was cursed into something and Yoda turned it back? And then, we talk with our strange little green friend, and everything's hunky-dory fine. The part that kind of stands out to me the most, other than the fact that it was Yoda popping up there, was, most of the characters in the group had magic in some form. And trying to convince Yoda that their magic was not the Force. But, being the wise old master, he was quite firm in his belief that this was just another manifestation of the Force. Even though, pan-dimensionalness has happened, and maybe he wasn't wrong, but, the 3 moons of magic on Kryn, you definitely know that those aren't the will of the living Force. We can see them there, we know their effects, we don't sense a great will in our arcane magic. it is, but it is what it is. And then Yoda got on the ship that the stormtroopers came in, and went off. Overall, still a fun game. Let's see. So that was 5. That was 4. Number three. Well, instead of telling you specifically right now, I'll build it up for you narratively. Our characters are in this village, and the crazy things seem to be happening. It's weird. This crazy old kook, or the village's resident crazy old kook, card carrying and everything, comes up and says he's being plagued by this mysterious phantom at night. It appeared to him, called him a fool, and has been harassing him and pestering him ever since. So we investigate. We look into the old man, making sure he's not crazy. Turns out he's or determining how crazy he is. Turns out he's something of a tinker. And so we find out something of a tinker. We find we ask him about the previous events with the phantom showing up and how it comes at night, has a dark cowl to its face. Called him a fool, as I said, but other than that, seems to be kind of hard to understand. So eventually we decide to stake out the place and see this phantom for ourselves. Then we see this silhouette, this phantom appears, pointed ears, cape billowing in the wind, and it turns out it's Batman. Batman was in our D&D game. I mean, he's everywhere else. Why not a D&D game? I'm sure he could punch out a dragon because he's Batman. And the thing is, though, we couldn't understand him, he couldn't understand us, but eventually we cast comprehend language spells on each other. And turns out he wasn't calling the guy a fool, he was asking for fuel for the bat plane or the bat jet. And turns out one of the things that the old man was working on was oil, developing and refining oil, basically, the early beginnings of industrialization and so forth. And so we eventually get that worked out. He gets the plane, he gets the bat jet working, which there's a device in it that creates a portal, and then Superman comes out and tows Batman back in. He gives us a few trinkets, and that's that. We met Batman. Fun times, although he was a bit more willing to, accept magic and the supernatural than Yoda was. But then again, this is the DCU we're talking about, where, you have demigods, superpowered aliens, rich men with lots of time and training, all coming together to, take on street level stuff as well as, cosmic level stuff. So it makes sense that he'd understand it. Although the idea of Superman being in, a D&D world posed some interesting questions as well, because basically a critical hit with a dagger to the jugular could take out Superman, because magic. Now that I think about it, that was a rather fun story. So on to number 2. Number 2 is a bit more involved, or rather happened a bit more. So number 2 is Stargate. SG-1, although Stargate as a whole, because, franchise, shared universe, and all that. Basically, with 2 separate characters, one a warlock, one a monk. Basically, the first time a Stargate team popped up in the show, or a Stargate team, not SG-1. No, wait a minute, it was SG-1. SG-1 popped up in this village that, my character was looking into at the time. He had heard tell of this strange artifact, and he went to go investigate. He saw the ring with the symbols. He was just like, this is weird. And then eventually, SG-1 rolls out, and then, they're looking for something. He follows them back to the village that had talked to him, and, investigations happen, and then it turns out the SG team came to retrieve one of the village members that my monk had talked to previously. Turns out she was actually from Earth, and ancient technology, being ancient technology, can go through different dimensions depending on the needs of the plot. So this person had arrived here, had not managed to get back because the rest of her team went through. There was hinkledy-dinkledy. I think it had something to do with the 5th age of Kryn happening. Again, this is Dragonlance. 5th age happened. Planet gets moved. Gods disappear for a while, And so that kind of kept her from getting home. But, time also went wonky, so it was a short time for, Earth and SG, in, the SGC. But, decades had happened for this person. She had built a life, had children, had some grandchildren. So, that was just a fun little bit of mystery to explore, and, the inclusion of Stargate, well, the DM and I are both, big fans of Stargate. I mean, it's Stargate, what are you going to do, right? The other time SG-1 popped up, I forget exactly what led to it, but I ended up having a warlock who got into a puddle jumper, went through the gate. I think he saved an SG team from something that was happening. And then he kind of followed them back onto their puddle jumper and went through the gate. And this puddle jumper was being borrowed from Atlantis, mind you. Or was it the one that they had gotten? Anyway, it was an ancient ship that was shaped like a cylinder that went through the Stargate. And so my warlock and his half fire elemental companion. Wrong game. It was another companion. My mistakes. You think these I'm talking about how memorable they are, but I'm having trouble. Shame on me. I am so sorry. But yeah, he goes back. Oh no, she was a mage she was a mage with a penchant for music. Not a bard, but a mage. Right. Got it. Okay. So goes back to Earth, sneaks around there. Not a whole major side thing, didn't get beyond the SGC compound. But yeah, I ended up getting into a discussion with Daniel Jackson. Fun times all around. Eventually he got back, got to show him the full extent of his magic once he got back. And due to some previous stuff, the time difference that happened in the first game where this happened didn't happen this time. So managed to get back without any time dilation wonkiness. As I said before, good times. And, Stargate's rarely ever a bad thing. And now for number 1. And this stands out because it was something the DM did and something I did when I was running the game. So the number 1 crossover that I've had in my D&D/Pathfinder games was Doctor Who. Yes, Doctor Who showed up in our game twice. First one was the 9th Doctor. The second one was the 10th Doctor. And when it was the 9th Doctor, I was running the game, and the DM was, playing as a character. And it was just this strange-looking box that the character had come across. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I'll investigate this strange-looking box. It's like nothing I've ever seen. And wait, it's bigger on the inside. That's weird. So she goes, his character, her, goes through the TARDIS, manages to not, get killed because, countermeasures and so forth. And eventually, gets found by the Doctor. Fun times were had. It was, the TARDIS can be any kind of dungeon you want it to be. So, you kind of have carte blanche with that. And so the Doctor shows up, it's number 9 with Rose, and the Doctor, being the Doctor, kind of understands, gives the person a trinket, not unlike Batman, but a bit more souped up because, hey, this is the Doctor. And lets his character off the TARDIS and goes about his business. Now, here's the thing, though. His character had been pushing some buttons and pulling some levers, and I rolled, and I figured, okay, it's a 1 in 20 chance that something bad might happen, because you're fiddling with the controls of the TARDIS. If you don't know what you're doing, bad things happen. She starts fiddling, I roll a d20, and it almost turns up a 1, just barely 1, and then boom, managed to not be a 1. So look out there, but buttons were still pressed. Nothing seems to have happened, everything's fine, she goes on her way. And in a serendipitous bit of synchronicity, a couple days later, we watched the next episode of Doctor Who when it was being shown on the Sci-Fi Channel. And it's the episode where Rose and the Doctor get back to her time. However, it's a year later and the Doctor doesn't know what happened. So it's just like, well, that worked into our personal continuity quite nicely. Everything just fits so snugly. We had a good laugh, and I hope you're having a good laugh at that too. The second time the the Doctor popped up was number 10 with David Tennant. Personally, one of my favorites, but although Capaldi's pretty solid in my estimation. And so I was playing this character, half orc, semi-mystical warrior dude, as you do. I'm sorry, half ogre, because this is Kryn. And Kryn again, yes, Dragonlance. It's a bit of a preferred setting for the DM. And so there's this fellow that's been taking samples, and we come across what looks like... So this person was taking samples from a nearby place. My character came and investigated because something weird was happening. And so... I really need to not pause so much. I'll just edit that out. So he investigates, and he eventually finds where the samples, including some people, have been taken, and he sees what looks to be, he doesn't know what it is, but to the players and everybody else, it looks like a big rig truck, the kind that hauls freight cross country, right? And this is just weird. And this guy comes out, and he's dressed like a trucker / mechanic, wrench and everything. There's a fight. My guy manages to defeat him, and then the TARDIS pops up. So it turns out that the guy that he defeated was not a Time Lord, but someone who was pretending to be a Time Lord and managed to get a hold of a TARDIS, and its chameleon cloak made it look like a big rig truck, and he called himself the Mechanic. So my guy defeated the Mechanic. The Doctor, as David Tennant, was just like, "Oh, are you thus and such species from this planet?" And my guy's just like, "No, I'm a half ogre." It's like, "Oh, all right then." So take custody of the guy. He takes, the Doctor takes custody of this other TARDIS. There's a little bit of back and forth between my guy and David Tennant Doctor, and reward, and it gives him a trinket. Starting to sense a theme here, but in this case it was a little mini computer in the form of a scroll. And this mini computer had an AI on it, and had a breadth of knowledge that my character could reference from time to time when he needed it. Here's the fun part, though. Not that the rest wasn't fun, but here's a fun, very lasting part. So the AI, being an AI, it has a certain level of sapience to it. And then my guy's sword was an intelligent sword. And then eventually, using my character as a communication medium, the two ended up talking to each other and determined that they really didn't like each other. So the scroll, the AI scroll and the magical talking sword would get into arguments and debates with each other, and then my guy would be in the middle having to listen to the whole thing in stereo. So yeah, those were some fun gaming memories. Those are short stories I wanted to share. These are the kinds of, as I said earlier, these are the kinds of stories that they stick with you because, they're deep, they're your personal quirky adventures. And, those are fun to share, and they're fun to cherish with you as, fond gaming memories. And, I hope this video here has, I hope this errata and FAQ has brought forth some of those memories for yourselves. So if you want to share some of those funny crossovers, just leave them in the comments, or if you want to go onto our Facebook, because we have a Facebook group. Not super special, I know, but hey, it's there. I'm trying.